My man Cinemax killed it over the weekend at California Extreme, where his panel on Sinistar with the Sinistar team and talking about his ROM hacking improvements and his restoration projects was welcomed by an incredibly generous audience. And now I have to explain what all of that means. This is Jason Scott Talks His Way Out of It, a podcast about technology, history, and getting myself out of debt. Thanks to Jeff Atwood and the hundreds of other supporters on Patreon and elsewhere who have been supporting me and helping me get out of debt. A while ago, a bunch of source code was released for arcade games of the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. We never found out who did that. And this source code wasn't just reverse-engineered ROMs, but actual source code from the original programmers, including their notes, comments, and most importantly, pieces that they decided weren't ready for production. So these source code files were looked at, modified, investigated, and in some cases improved upon. People trying out different feature sets and trying to get all of these different items compiled again. Maybe even turned into ROMs that the emulators could use. Among these people was Cinemax, who, it can't be put any other way, just fell in love with the game Sinistar by Williams Electronics. Released in the 1980s, Sinistar is a bizarre and fun video game. Its production schedule was difficult. Released at a time when Williams was looking for the next big thing, it was initially a slow back-burner project that allowed it to have a ridiculously complicated operating system which could handle hundreds of individual enemies both on and off-screen. It was rushed to make deadline, and as that happened, bugs were introduced and some features were removed along the way. As part of tinkering around, Cinemax looked through the source code, found some of these missing features, and started to experiment with bringing them back, compiling all of the source code so that it just worked, and eventually making a version of the game with a few of these features that then could be emulated by MAME, and the Cinemax version of Sinistar was available to play. And he could have stopped there, considered it a job well done, and moved on to the next big thing. In an inspiring move, he started to not just fix bugs, but document the process by which Sinistar itself had come into existence. He tracked down members of the development team, asked them some very direct technical questions and questions about process and motivations, and eventually created a multi-hour documentary on all things Sinistar. Everything from history and personalities through to his process for creating a new version of Sinistar that could run on original hardware. It was, really, a breathtaking achievement. It's a wonderful film. And again, he could have laid down his tools, called it a day, and contributed so much more to Sinistar's history. But he didn't stop there. He was able to get a panel approved at California Extreme. Now, California Extreme is an arcade event that takes place near San Jose, and it's a conference center full of machines. Just hundreds and hundreds of arcade, pinball, and skill-based machines that people can then play for free after paying the admission. And as I've mentioned before, my relationship to these machines is a little different from when I was younger. I don't really like to play them all that much. Instead, I walk along, absorb the atmosphere, notice a few new contemporary pieces that people have created and sell, and I just take the ambiance as what I am learning from. At this event, there were some fun contemporary pinball machines, as well as brand new arcade games made by the current incarnation of Atari and other firms, where you could walk up and play a version of a game that's available usually only on Steam. That is fine. But what I was there for was to come give support to Sinistar as he ran this panel. And this panel wasn't just Sinistar up on a stage talking about what he did. He brought on stage 3 of the original developers of Sinistar with another few on a Zoom conference. These are legendary people to me, absolutely wonderful. I've interacted with some of them, and their energy and enthusiasm for games has never gone away. As they became fathers and then grandfathers, their twinkle about video games doesn't ever fade away. The panel itself was great. Sinistar kept things moving, covered some of the things he had worked on, and had the various members of the development teams talk about the creation of Sinistar from their perspective. Nobody was selling anything. Nobody was trying to push towards some new thing that everybody had to buy. It was just memories and good times. The audience was very receptive. They were so excited to see what people were talking about. When Cinemax revealed that a collector had an original Sinistar marquee from when it was called Dark Star, everybody applauded. When he played different features he had added to the game in doing his development work, there was applause again. The jokes were funny, they landed well, and everybody had a great time. Afterwards, I took some photos of Cinemax with the development team, and then that should have been it. I was pretty tired. I had gone through a full day. The process of traveling had really worn me down, and it was a hot day, and I thought I was going to leave. But then, while I was working on my phone, Cinemax invited me over to a table, and at the table were the 3 developers and a few other friends, and I spent a couple hours just hanging out with people who had had such an influence on my childhood. I mean, these were people who made the explosions in Defender, people who had worked on the Amiga, the 3DO, and to have the opportunity to tell stories, to listen to their stories, and while away an evening, well, that was priceless. But all of this, for me, was just another golden coin in a realm of luck and happiness I've had as I've been learning about this history that drove me to be who I am. I've met major figures before, but this was Cinemax's moment to shine. And Max was in heaven. It's neither fear nor insecurity that puts us in a position of not reaching out to communicate with others. I feel like it's more of a sense of thinking it won't be welcome, that it's not necessary. But based on what I've learned over the years, having these social moments, these moments in person, buying drinks, getting snacks, talking out what affected you, and listening to the stories that people swap with each other, that's the core and the heart of this current time. You can't convince me that scrolling through some artifacts or reading an interview is the sum total of the opportunities that are laying before us. No, I think it's the fact that people are still around with us, that we are still seeing these figures who played such an important part in so many lives, and that they're open and receptive to the occasional really great evening in the hotel lobby connected to a conference where thousands of people are having an incredible time, reliving the worlds they crafted themselves in their very own youth. I thank Cinemax for having the drive, the passion, and the goals to take this possibly obscure video game and bring it in a contemporary way back into curiosity and wonder and joy. This is Jason Scott Talks His Way Out of It, thanks to James Bekoyanu, Ernie Hershey, Michael Rubin, Sean Kelly, Trixie the Cat, Symbionce, Benjamin Guts, David Fisher, and Anonymous, along with the hundreds of other supporters on Patreon and elsewhere who have been supporting me and helping me get out of debt. The Cinemax version of Sinistar has a few features to make it a little easier and a little bit clearer, things they couldn't really find the time to do in the original production. It really becomes clear why Cinemax fell in love with it and why he was driven to learn assembly language, to pay homage to this truly, truly great video game achievement.